The Atlanta Soul travel northeast to take on the DC Shadow in their home opener. Atlanta brings a 1-0 squad, and DC is looking for a win in their first game of the season. Asako, what are we looking forward to?
Hi, Theo. Good evening. I'm super excited to be here for DC Shadow's opening game. It's a brand new season with lots of rookies, a new coaching staff under head coach John Agan, and I'm really curious to see how well they've been able to integrate the new rookies into a new system in the few short weeks that they've been practicing. For Atlanta Soul, they're coming off an exciting come-from-behind win against Austin Torch in their first game. So this is their second game, and I'm curious to see if they are able to carry on that momentum coming into this game. However, they are missing a couple of key players from this, Jimena Montaña and Soju Hokari, who played very well in that opening game. So I'm curious to see how that affects their game.
Absolutely. First poll between the Atlanta Soul and DC Shadow coming up in just a few minutes. Should be a beautiful night here in Carlini Field. Asako, let's take a look at some key players that will play certainly big factors in tonight's game.
Yes. For Shadow, we have Cami Groom, the Defensive Player of the Year last year, 13 goals, 8 assists, 12 blocks. She really needs no introduction. She is just zoom Cami Groom all over the field. So we're looking forward to seeing that again. For Atlanta Soul, we have Cami Groom, also selected for the World Games this year. Very exciting development. She just seems to get better and better. And so it's exciting to watch her just cut into open space, also win the small space.
Yeah.
It's just been exciting to watch her all the time.
Absolutely. And then on the Atlanta side, we will be talking a lot about their MVP candidate from last year, and that's Mia Griner.
Yes, 9 goals, 7 assists. The fans and her teammates call her the human highlight reel. She was also the team's nominee for Defensive Player of the Year. Just all the time going 100%, catching everything. I think in the first opening game, she made a really exciting layout catch on a disc that was just off of someone's hand, and she just plays with a lot of grit all over the field.
As we see some of her highlights from last year. Again,
Yeah.
I mentioned getting that MVP nomination. That's a big honor for someone.
There we go. That's the kind of grit that she shows. She's on both sides of the field. I mean, throwing and receiving, doing it all for Atlanta Soul.
Yeah, Griner was limited to only about 3 points played in their first game, but look for her to be a larger factor tonight as we wrap up the starting lineup announcements for today.
Lots of rookies on both lines, so it'll
We
be
will,
very exciting to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Asaka, take us through the keys to the game for the Shadow.
Yes, as far as the Shadow, it's going to be about paying attention to spacing and decisiveness to open up the spaces that they want to attack as a team. And for defense, it's going to be communication among the players to build cohesion and to integrate all the new players into their defensive system. For Atlanta Soul, it's going to be about using their trademark hustle to provide active continuation marks aggressively, even under pressure, which was something missing in their first week game sometimes. And defensively, it's to disrupt shadow plans with a mix of zone and person defense and some smart matchups that they've already planned for. It sounds like they came up with matchup plans already.
Absolutely, yeah. We talked to the Soul coaches earlier today, and yeah, definitely are excited for this matchup here. Of course, Soul are playing their first game of a back-to-back as we take a look at the Shadow head coaching staff.
Yep. So that's John Agan with 2 new assistant coaches, the coaches of Raleigh, in fact, DC Raleigh. Yes, the Shadow won the PUL Coaching Staff of the Year last year. But John Agan is the only one who stayed from that staff. But it's going to be a good cohesive team, I think.
Yeah, we were talking to Zach Norbaum on the left here and David Maniloff in the middle, and they were saying like it's not a new team, it's a different team.
Yes.
He was careful to say a lot of new faces, but and so that builds a different team, but it's not a completely new team. So.
They're looking to bring the same dominance though that they showed in 2024 back to the field.
And then we will take a look at the Atlanta Soul. A bit of a tough season last year, but it's already off to a great start this year, isn't it,
Yes,
Asaka?
they already tied their win record, so it's all good from here. They also have a new coaching staff. It sounds like the players are very happy with the new coaching staff, very organized, and very good vibes.
Yeah, they talked a lot about trust, trusting what the coaching staff is implementing as far as matchups ahead of time, but also in-game adjustments. As we can see the coaching staff here.
Yes, it sounds like they have very intentional. Matty Frey there.
Matty Frey on the right.
Building up a very kind of local grassroots, honoring local kind of traditions kind of coaching staff. All the coaching staff, except for the conditioning coaches elsewhere, youth and other club teams. And it sounds like it's a very cohesive system that they're building.
Yes.
It's very exciting.
This live broadcast is brought to you by the Premier Ultimate League. The PUL is a 501c6 nonprofit. This league has been community funded since day one, and we are so grateful for the support. We ask that you consider donating to us, help continue, transform, and fulfill our mission. Head to premierultimateleague.com to donate today. The Discraft Ultrastar is the official disc of the Premier Ultimate League. Discraft, the world leader in disc sports. This live broadcast of the Premier Ultimate League is brought to you by Breakmark Ultimate Apparel. Go to breakmark.com to place your next custom team order or check out the PUL Athlete Collab shops. Opening flip/coin toss happening right now. Of course, in the PUL, we have observers, so very much similar to USA Ultimate rules. However, it is timed quarters. That is a big difference from normal USA Ultimate rules where you might be playing to a score. So you can see we'll have 12-minute quarters here, and it's really a great atmosphere. I mean, I said it earlier, but it is a beautiful night. You can see the crowd taking it in there. Shadow fans coming out strong, but the Atlanta fans also showing up. We met some of them earlier, didn't we?
Yes, coming from far. We met parents who came from Texas for the game. Some were coming from, I think, driving from far away, but making their presence known on the bleachers.
Maybe a little soul crushing.
All right. Players are taking the field. So the Shadow coaches were telling us that they have 3 lines of 8 players that they're going to be playing to integrate the whole team together. It's not so much an O-line, D-line thing. It's about trusting their depth, trusting the entire team, and playing all 3 lines. Which is a difference, which is a change from last year.
Absolutely, yep. That was that difference that Coach Maniloff was telling us about. So as Atlanta breaks down their huddle, Shadow on the line first. As the sun dips below the trees here.
What a beautiful
to the
evening.
west of Carlini Field. Yep, here at the home of Catholic University of America, here in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, as we see the Soul taking the field.
With a disc. Current conditions, 80 degrees, wind speed 12.7. There is enough of a breeze to make a little bit of a difference in the game.
We were both out there earlier today, and it was definitely a little gusty, not so much that we think that it might become, you know, an ugly game, but yes, so it does look like Atlanta will be on defense to start. Disc in the hands of Liv Ford as the Shadow fans come to their feet. Here we go, first pull of the DC Shadow season and the first road game for the Atlanta Soul.
The DC Shadow, disc in the hands of number 9, Liv Ford.
Looking like they're waiting for the clock. Liv Ford paying attention to the clock.
Observers waiting for the final call. Liv Ford looking at the clock, and looks like we are a go. Liv Ford sends it off for the Atlanta Soul with the backhand pull, and the DC Shadow season is underway. It'll be Sammy Smalling picking up the disc, getting it quickly to Tyler Smith, as Shadow starts with a side stack on the right. Big under there. Back to Tyler Smith. A little give and go here.
Ket Ritzman, lefty throw.
So it'll be Ford on Tyler Smith. That'll be a good matchup to watch tonight.
Yes, indeed.
As Harris gives it back to Smith, who's been touching the disc a lot so far for the Shadow as they work it all the way across. Lefty, high release from Pendleton. And Smalling goes up the near side, and not enough space there. Was looking for Allie Wallace, I believe.
Yes, couldn't quite do it in.
And so, just like that, Shadow turn it over on their first O point of the season, and Liv Ford will pick up the disc for the Soul.
Break chance for Soul.
Liv Ford, a native of Atlanta, Georgia, in her second year with the Soul, as Shadow get a D on the first throw. That's Pendleton. As Shadow, you saw the mark go no around and really force Ford to take that inside shot. Beautiful execution by the Shadow as they try to punch it in here. It'll be Smith and Smalling. Smith goes over to Flores. Flores now gets it into Smalling, and there it is. Sammy Smalling brings in the first goal of the 2025 season for the DC Shadow. I'm sure their whole coaching staff hopes that's the first of many.
Yes, exactly. It wasn't exactly a clean hole, but gritty defense got it back, right back on their end zone. So good start for them.
And we could see an early strategy by their the Shadow O-line here of putting on that hard mark, forcing the Seoul players to play in that small box, and it got the turn over there.
That was good defense.
So Smalling brings in her first goal that equals her total from last year. She was more of a distributor. She had 1 goal to go along with 5 assists and 7 secondary assists or hockey assists, as they're colloquially known, as well as 3 blocks, and played all 6 regular season games for the Shadow. So it's a great sign to see.
Yeah. She
her
was a
off
rookie
to a
last
running
year, I
start.
believe.
Yes,
right?
first year in
Yep.
Shadow was last year. And brought along a lot of her club teammates on Rally,
Exactly.
joining her,
including
on
the
Shadow this year.
coaches.
Yeah, a lot of influence from DC Rally, a mixed club team here in DC. And now the Shadow will be pulling to the Soul. It's Annalise Peters getting the D-line's first action of the season for the Shadow. To pick up for the Soul, that'll be Allison Murphy. Looked for Quincy Booth in the middle. Gets it over to Chloe Green. Far side for Georgia Say. And that looked like it was intended for Booth, but then off the hands of the second receiver, Morgan Lally, and now Shadow with a chance to break.
Quick turnover.
And Gentilette sends it deep, looking for
Marika.
Korpinen, and unable to come down with it. So both teams turn it over, but get it back on their first O points. It'll be Quincy Booth, the standout college player from
University of
University of Georgia, Athena. She shoots it deep immediately, looking for Lally. Lally trying to chase it down
Oh, so close.
and unable to get it. But what power from Quincy Booth.
Yes, amazing backhand. Over 6 foot tall and a lefty with all the throws. Life is not fair.
Absolutely. Quincy Booth had 3 goals and 5 assists in just 2 games last year, and already is off to a great start, being a big part of that win against Austin in week 1. But right now it is Julia Harris, Marge Walker,
Oh, Georgia State
Romero
almost.
Pena gets it up to Gentilette. Gentilette looked off. Ono. And now on the goal line, and Ono gets the score from
Yes.
Amanda Murphy. Shadow get their first break in their first chance of the 2025 season.
Sumi is a rookie on this team, but played surge. She moved here from Philadelphia. It's a very nice pickup for DC Shadow.
Yeah, Sumi Ono getting the goal there. Sumi played for the Philly Surge last year. Had 3 goals and 1 assist, as well as 3 hockey assists and a block in 5 games.
She's a defensive powerhouse.
And so now it's a matter of stopping this before it gets too out of hand here in the first quarter for Atlanta. We knew that the Shadow were going to be energized as this is the first game of their season, but we also know Atlanta is excited for this. This is their first away game of the season. Again, they're going on this 2-game trip where they'll head down to Raleigh tomorrow. And there was just a general excitement from the whole Seoul squad.
Yes.
As we
Very
as we
good
talked to
energy
them.
coming off the whole team and the coaching staff.
So that will be sour beer on the pull for Shadow.
So this
And
would be the 3rd line for Shadow.
yes. So
I see some rookies on this line as well. I think the rookies are well distributed.
here's Jordan Harn. Harn looked for Green, but Gerald comes down with it. And now Green with it. Back to Harn. Harn, we were talking to earlier. Harn used to compete against Simone Biles back in the day. So that tells you a little bit about
Her
her
athleticism.
background. Beautiful handler defense there from Graham Cunningham.
Oh.
And that turns into a Shadow block. Booth was looking for Green, but that was Ellen Mueller getting the block for Shadow.
Another rally transplant.
Shadow already using both ends of the field. Sorensen looking for Mueller. Mueller on the doorstep. Upline cut, looked off there, and eventually it's a goal. Mueller finds Lizzie Laurie for another shadow break. That's 3-0 DC.
That was good defensive help from Greiner, but there was another option, more on the inside, so they couldn't quite cover both.
See the beautiful heads-up defense from Mueller. And it's not exactly what we call bookends, but getting the block and then the assist, you know, she's not going to be mad about that.
Some people call it double happiness. I don't know how much that's taken off, but it's good fakes from Ellen.
So Mueller.
Lizzie Laurie secures the goal.
Those are two key players for Shadow. Mueller had 9 goals for the Shadow last year to go along with 2 assists and a hockey assist, played all 6 games for the Shadow. And Laurie played 5 games for the Shadow last year. 3 goals, 3 assists. So already off to a great start.
Yes.
As it looks like the Soul called early timeout here.
Yeah, to regroup a little bit mentally. They also have more players than Shadow playing multiple points, so it might be important for them to take a breath and rebuild.
And again, so if we take a step back and look at the PUL season on a whole, again, a little bit of realignment this year with the inclusion of the Los Angeles Astra in the league. So DC is in the South Division along with Atlanta and the Astra and Raleigh and a couple of other teams. But Atlanta, you know, obviously got that win against Austin, an Austin team that made it to championship weekend last year. So that's certainly
it's a big win.
Yes, and it gives them a little bit of hope because it's only a 6-game season. So getting that first win is really big if you're looking to get in the top 2 of that division and get to championship
Yes,
weekend.
each game means a lot. I think now this means that we are back to the first line that played for DC Shadow.
Yeah, looks like they're keeping with that rotation. It'll be Smith pulling for the Shadow. So again, not going with that conventional O&D line. Trying to really get a lot of players time as it's Smalling on the mark, but a great step around there by Hawkins. And now in the middle of the field. Again, these Shadow marks are very active, as that is just a punt from the Soul, as there was a lot of Shadow players around the disc, and the Soul had no options.
Yes, it looked like they were playing a saggy, moving the poacher defense
Speaking
that
of
choked up the Atlanta Soul offense.
Speaking of junk, here it is. You talked about mixing up the defensive looks for the Soul. This is our first look at a zone defense here. Yeah. And we'll see how the Shadow responds. Looks like they're pretty patient so far, but again, not gaining too many yards. This is exactly what we saw in that first game. Atlanta really stifled Austin when they put this zone on. They forced Austin to make a lot of throws, and eventually those led to turns. So we'll see if that can be similarly effective tonight.
With a little bit of a breeze, maybe enough to disrupt something.
So right now it is.
Right now Shadow is being very patient.
Ritzman with Smith. Back to Ritzman. Nice quick throw there to France. Again, this Atlanta defense forcing a lot of Shadow players close to the disc. You can see how compact. We can see in our picture here, we can see all 14 players, and this is just a small portion of the field.
Yes, it's true. Horizontally, very compact.
Yeah. So Flores back to Ritzman. It's been a lefty. Smith thought about the over the top.
It's a 1-3 zone, so it's very top heavy. Once they break through like this, it becomes a little bit more vulnerable.
They do a good job of recovering there. It's Charlie Hawkins appears to be chasing for the Soul, always being on the mark. I'm sure both of us have been in that position, and it is tiring for sure.
That is a lot of running.
Doing a great job right now as Shadow still struggling to gain a lot of yards. They're almost at half field as Smith goes up to Ritzman. Smith, and there it is.
There is the
forcing a lot of throws. I don't know how many that was, but probably around 50 or something. And and they get the turn, and it'll be Liv Ford strolling over to pick up the disc.
And a relatively short field.
Pendleton on the mark. Pendleton, another one of those rookies from Raleigh, as Ford goes deep, looking for Hawkins. Great help D from Smalling, and that is denied.
There we go.
That was very good help, D.
And looks like we have an injury call. It'll be Charlie Hawkins going out. Hawkins was
after being the mark the entire
went
time.
Deep, yeah, don't blame her for
No.
having to take us up there.
We used to call that position rabbit. Do they still call it that? When you mark the whole time?
Rabbit, chaser, whatever you want to call it, and the Shadow call a timeout here to regroup
DC Shadow calling a timeout on
as
the field.
they try to extend their lead. This is by far the longest point we've had so far. The first three fairly quick, still turns, but Shadow able to punch it in on the first or second tries. As we see David Maniloff, a new assistant coach, also coaches that rally team we talked about, giving instructions to Shadow. What do you think he's telling them right here?
I think he's talking about how to attack that zone, the 1-3 zone. That maybe there was a little bit of problem in the spacing, perhaps. It did look a little bit tight. Like you were saying, we could see all 14 players on the screen, which is not ideal, I think, when you're attacking a zone.
How do you think, how would you advise them to get like that more spacing? What would an adjustment be maybe?
I would say the handlers were kind of trying to do almost like a dominator thing. So the poppers would, maybe one of them could be closer, but the other one not get, both of them get close. And the deeps, I mean, they have amazing throwers. The deeps could be a little deeper to kind of open up that space.
Yeah, it does look like the wind has subsided a little bit. We're not seeing as much movement from the trees, but Shadow, certainly a tough test to break through this soul zone. We see the same faces, Smith, Smalling, and Flores, as well as Ritzman back there doing the majority of the work for the Shadow, but there it goes up to
Claire France.
And the Shadow patiently working some yards. We saw them get that one breakthrough, but the Soul did a really good job of recovering.
Yes. Soul Mark doing a very good job containing.
Now on the near sideline, you can see the Soul Mark is not trapping that sideline. It's almost forcing them back into the middle of the field, making them have to go backwards in order to gain yards. And there it is, a breakthrough to Pendleton. Pendleton off to Smalling. And Smith works it for Smalling again. And there's Flores in the middle to France. Back to Flores.
Yep.
Shadow have something working here. Flores dribbling.
Running
now
away.
gets it up to Pendleton. And there it is. Another break for the Shadow. And Flores was really the engine on that possession.
The Soul defense did a really good job of containing them until that one too many breaks in the middle. So they might want to adjust that 3 that's behind the rabbit to strengthen their middle section a little bit. But that was the best point they played, I think.
Absolutely, and you know, that took several minutes off the clock. We're already down to 3:27 here in this first quarter. You see Pendleton there, brought in the goal.
Another rally player. Maybe they're talking about how they could do. So the next line is on the field now
Like we see for
DC Shadow.
the Soul, the likes of Lally, Booth, Say, Green all on the field. And it'll be Peters, just like she did 3 points ago, on the pole for Shadow. And so it'll be Booth, and looks like Shadow is trying a junky look of their own here.
And a Soul looking for their first point score.
It looks kind of similar to the Soul, although it does look like they're a bit more aggressive. You see Korpinen is that rabbit that you were talking about,
Yes.
and Ono and Romero Pena are those the two others in that front wall, and they're being pretty aggressive, trying to guard the handlers. But here,
Korpinen is so fast.
Gerald gets
Yeah.
some yards
Oh,
for
send
the
it
Soul.
right. Yes.
And Gerald again from Booth. Back to Booth.
10 yards
Up
out.
to Bannister. Back to Booth. Back to Bannister.
10 yards out from their first score.
And tries
Oh.
to squeeze it in, and that's a turnover there.
Oh,
the
that's a
Soul-
heartbreaker.
The Soul get all the way up the field, are about 3 yards out of the end zone, and can't punch it in. We'll see if the Shadow can punish that as Peters picks up the disc.
Nice break backhand.
Great low grab from Gentilette. A deep ball goes up, looking for Korpinen. Korpinen has space, brings it in, and tried to squeeze that into Romero Pena, and just not enough room there to make that connection, and right back into that defense. So here's Lally. Looks like some tired legs after both teams worked it all the way down the
Yes.
field.
Looking like they're trying some small ball.
Green to Booth, two of the higher touch players. We should mention again that the Soul are without two of their most impactful players, Jimena Montaña and Soju Hikari. As Booth is dominating right now, all the way up on the near side. This is again where the Soul gave the disc away last time. Lally working with Green. And the hammer goes up.
And it's caught. A kick spike for emphasis. And now they're on the board.
And that's Megan Jarrell bringing in the first goal of the Soul's away season.
She has her own fan base right here in the stands.
You can hear them as we take a look at the sequence of plays there. Both teams getting it down to the end zone, but then it was ended by this Green hammer.
I must say I was not expecting that.
And you can see Gentilette there just putting the hands up, was not expecting that either. So there it is. Soul get a goal. They are now on the board, down 4-1 against DC as we still have a minute and 4 seconds left in the first quarter. And I usually would say this is now our chance to see the Shadow O-line again, but we know they are doing that, rotating
three
of
lines. Yep.
But it is our chance to see this Soul D-line, and it'll be Greiner on the pole. Greiner, the MVP candidate last year for the Soul, coming in with 9 goals, 7 assists, 8 hockey assists, 6 blocks. She was one of 5 players to have at least 6 of each of those stats last year, along with the likes of Tori Taylor, Cami Groom, Valeria Cardenas, and Jolie Krebs. So very good company for Greiner.
As we break into the last minute of the first quarter, Theo, maybe you want to go quickly over PUL rules about the clock in the first quarter. When the time goes out, you can keep possession until there's a turn.
Yes.
Or you score.
So it looks like Shadow work it down to 20 seconds. Again,
So
they can.
we really don't want to turn it over with 10 seconds to spare.
This is Cami Groom working now, gets it back.
So many
From
quick
Jess
people.
O to Cami
Not
Groom.
quite
Jess
in.
O looking for
Jordan
Sorensen and brings it in with 3 seconds left. And that is important because the Soul, again, if they get a clean hold, can score this.
Yes.
Unlike, our fellow counterparts in the UFA.
That's right.
As you see the nice inside there and the turn away from Jess O, native of Laurel, Maryland, just northeast of here.
And Jordan Sorensen, another rookie on this team. Amazing player. Very happy to see Jordan playing on this DC Shadow team.
You you see Jordan Sorensen, number 35, for the Shadow squad, a native of Washington, D.C., along with Graham Cunningham. The only two D.C. natives. We have, some DMV natives as well from Arlington and Maryland, but they're representing the district here tonight for the Shadow.
That's correct.
So what would you say the Shadow coaching staff is telling them to approach this last 5 seconds of the quarter?
Just get the turn. Just get the turn.
Yeah. Obviously, you're most likely not going to have a chance to score, so.
Look at Amanda Murphy running down the field.
Amanda Murphy gets down first.
So much hustle.
And a great grab there
Great
by
grab.
Cheryl. Has been one of the more active players so far for the Soul.
She's got to work it for the fans.
Griner patiently goes back to Doran. Doran over to Green. This looks like a pretty stacked line for the Soul, and a diving layout. And that will end the quarter.
Incredible layout D by number 67.
That's Jackie Wong
Ends the quarter with no
getting the
red
D
goal.
as we take a look at it here. Flying chest high
At the end of the first
and
quarter,
just runs it off.
Signature Jackie Wong move there. Signature move. So much energy on her defense.
Yeah, Jackie Wong was one of the team leaders with 7 blocks last year, getting her first of the season there.
Yeah, takes pride in being her defensive prowess.
As the quarter ends, it's with a score of DC 4, Seoul 1.
Overexcited.
We will have the second quarter.
I think there are a lot of bright spots to think about for Seoul. I mean, they are losing right now, but they got on the board. They forced some long points. Their offense is working when they can space themselves well.
We got some lovely new shirts this season. As you can see, I'm
So I think there's some.
Take a look at the replay
I need some loud
from this last goal.
Nice catch.
Oh, to Sorensen. And then Wong, of course, ended the quarter.
The quarter ending play.
Beautiful. DC, oh, shirt.
Back inside Carlini Field, the sun gets even lower, but the vibes get even brighter here as it is a packed stadium, a lot of familiar faces in the crowd. You can see both teams taking the line. Again, it will be the Shadow to get this quarter started off with a pull. Asako, what were some of the takeaways from that first quarter, and what should each team be looking for moving forward for the rest of this game?
I think that Shadow should be ready for the zone again and maybe polish it up a little bit in terms of how they distribute the disc and how they use their spacing. For Atlanta Soul, I think they can take a lot of heart in that the score is 4-1, but it's only 4-1. And this O-line here with Booth, Georgia Tsay, Lila Bannister, they can get it done. They just need to space themselves a little better and keep cutting aggressively, even if they think they're covered.
And that's the beauty of a quarter system is, they were down 4-0. They get that hold, and now it's another hold chance, and
nice
they can cut the lead in half.
That's right.
So a beautiful grab there from Say, going up top. Another great catch by Say. Booth forcing her to layout there. And
Another
Sol
nice catch.
keeping possession here. That time it was Gerald. Now Lally gets it back to the middle of the field for Green. Quickly up to Bannister. And beautiful swings here. Love this motion for the Sol. Green using her fakes effectively. Hawkins.
Sol did play some hex last year. We should ask the coaches if they plan to bring it back.
And now Bannister about 8 yards out of the end zone. A lot of fakes. No reset now. And another huge catch from Georgia Say, saving possession on 3 occasions. Now going to the end zone. And that's Bannister with the spike. Atlanta Sol
Clean
gets their
hold.
second goal. First clean hold of the day. And just like that, the lead is 2.
That was really good patience shown and some amazing catches, all in 1 point.
Yeah, here's a couple of them from Say. Oh my goodness.
How many times did she lay out that point? But she kindly throws a perfect dime.
Yeah, that was a beautiful throw. Very tough throw.
Oh, she got the cape. She got the cape.
There's our first cape sighting of the day. We talked to the Sol coaches, and they told us a little bit about their cape. You know, we've seen the turnover chains in college football and things like that, but you know, they're big on this cape this year.
Well, she clearly was a superhero at that point, so very well deserved.
And not only do they have the cape, but they have another award. I
That's
think
right.
that
The
they told
Try
us about,
Hard
right, Asako?
Award, right? A little troll doll. Although they didn't seem to know where exactly the troll was at the point.
Yeah, of course, it gets passed around from player to player for someone that really sticks out and you know, shows a lot of effort. And the Sol showing a lot of effort right now.
Let's see if they can bring this momentum into getting a break here.
Pardon us, we mentioned it wrong. The score is 5-2 Shadow, as this is Wallace up on the far side. And now Shadow working it into the red zone already, looking to match Atlanta's clean hold with a clean hold of their own. Smith gets it back to Flores. And chasing it down and bringing it in is Ritzman. This was the line that had to deal with that Atlanta zone for the first time. And, you know, again, Atlanta mixing it up, now not showing zone.
Kat Ritzman saying, if they're going to have layouts, we can too.
Wallace over to Smith. Smith, you mentioned, coming over from Raleigh. As that is a tight inside
Oh,
throw.
nice layout D.
Beautiful layout D there. That was Popovich. Popovich looks like she is feeling it after that layout. We'll take an injury sub. Popovich, a native of Asheville, North Carolina, one of several North Carolina players that are coming over and playing for the Sol team.
Yes. Let's see if that layout D gets her the cape next.
That was the strength and conditioning coach going over to help out Popovich. And it'll be Greiner coming on for the Sol as they are really trying to punch in this break, their first of the day, as Ford working in the backfield with Harn. We've seen Ford launch some deep throws, but this time goes under to Christina Marsicano. Also goes by Tuna, and that is a little too far for Harn, and the Shadow get the disc back 25 yards out of the end zone. Flores will pick it up. Flores, star over at the University of Virginia. Steps around, backhand, beautiful spot. Claire France brings it in, and the Shadow get the hold after a couple of issues.
Well, it was a good point for Atlanta Soul. A lot of highlights. I would say for the last possession, the Shadow were breaking the mark like it wasn't there. So that might be something, adjustment that might be made for Atlanta Soul. Although they could be trying to have more of a no huck or no big shot defense. But certainly the mark was not helping the downfield defenders.
So that was Claire France bringing in the goal there. Claire France played with Minneapolis Dragon Thrust.
Yes, another commuter player for one of the few, actually, for Shadow. I believe she is in Kansas.
Yep. Native of Kansas City, Kansas, not Kansas City, Missouri. Third year for the Shadow.
Jackie Wong with the disc.
Jackie Wong on the pole for Shadow as they match their largest lead of the game at 4. Since then, it's been a bit of trading. So Greiner came on as a sub and is now back on the field. Say gets it from Green. Green taking off deep. Say doesn't look for it. And Greiner works the under. Again, we've been seeing a bit of better, as I say that, I was going to say Seoul better at keeping possession on their O-lines as of the recent points, but that time they give it away. An immediate huck shot, and unable to bring it down is Cammie Groom, an uncharacteristic drop from Shadow's superstar.
Could be that it went right over her head. Sometimes when it goes over your head, it's hard to reel it in.
Yeah, I almost didn't expect the disc to stay up as much as it did. It almost was an easier catch than Groom was maybe expecting. But Shadow will look to get it back. A nice inside shot from Say. Say has been a yardage churner, and a beautiful outside in forehand gets a lot of yards from Green. Green goes with a low
that's very
backhand.
nice.
The Soul bringing out the beautiful throws here, and they're about 12 yards out of the end zone.
Nice leading passes. Oh, as I say that, commentator's curse.
The commentator's jinx exists in Ultimate, folks, as well.
Works almost every time.
So that's a pick call, it appears, as the Shadow were looking to fast break. Pace of the game has slowed down a little bit since the Shadow's quick run to start the game.
This is probably the longest point of this quarter.
You know, one of those Shadow coaches, Zach Norbaum, we talked to earlier. Norbaum, a former superstar with the DC Breeze, been used to playing on this field here at Carlini, which the DC Breeze, the men's professional team, plays at as well. As Graham Cunningham races for that reset. Groom. Fairly high stall, and that one is out of bounds, and another turnover for the Shadow.
Oh, this is an opportunity for Atlanta Soul.
So Greiner will go over to pick up the disc. We've seen Greiner play a lot more than she did in that first week, so that's a good sign for the Soul.
Oof, that was going to be another tough catch for Jose, but she got it no problem.
Cunningham inches away from that D.
Greiner looking for something.
High stall here, just goes back to Hawkins. And now Green and Hawkins. Greiner now on the far side. Shadow content to give up some of these resets, force Atlanta Soul to really work it all the way down the field.
Feels like a little bit the middle cuts are coming a little early for Atlanta Soul.
As we see a shot go up from Hawkins, battle for it, and that's a beautiful box out there by Lally. Gets it against the heavily contested defense from Sorensen.
10 yards out.
You can see these tired legs after this really long point. This would be huge if the Atlanta Soul can punch it in. And just out of the reach of Mia Greiner. We'll take another look at this as Greiner is down. I believe she got hands on this.
Yes, one hand on it, looks like.
Yeah, I don't know how many fingers she got on it, but clearly not enough. But what an effort from Greiner. And you can see it on her face there. Maybe just the wind knocked out of her.
Yes.
We hope.
She went down hard. There's a little bit of a smile on her face. That's good to see.
Greiner, one of the rare non-Georgia natives on the Soul, native of Los Angeles.
Went to college in Florida, I believe, right? University of Florida? Or
Central Florida.
Central Florida.
Yes. And now,
yes, Central Florida.
now
You're
lives
right.
in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be, as we can see there, Charlotte Doran subbing in for the injured Greiner, who we hope to see back out there soon.
Yes, hopefully she just got the wind knocked out.
And here we have Graham Cunningham with the big mark of Quincy Booth.
They must have played against each other in college when Graham was still at Ohio State.
Yes, here we are with the Shadow. Another break chance. Jess O.
Jess O. Oh, Lizzie.
And trying to chase it down is Lori. And back to the Soul. Here's Doran.
That was very good help. Oh,
And physical defense. It looks like Say thinking about calling something. And it looks like a timeout was called before this play. We'll still take a look at it. You can see both players giving full effort, but it does look like the Soul called timeout before that throw went up. So they will keep possession and talk about
that was a
this little bit.
prescient time out call by the coach.
Yeah, and that goes back to how much these players trust the coaching staff there. You know, another great in-game call.
I know we still got plenty more
This is another PUL rule that is a little bit different from regular club playing, where the coaches can call the timeout from the sideline, and it goes back to the moment that it was called, which in this case turned out to be very lucky.
And it looks like they will change as well who has the disc. It'll be Quincy Booth going over to pick it up. One of the Atlanta coaches' focuses was on their tempo and fast breaking on offense, as we see a quick look to the end zone, and again just off the hands. Booth thought she had Gerald.
Gentilette came over to help, probably distracting her a little bit in that reception.
Definitely a tough contested catch as Peters fakes the deep shot. But we have seen that Soul like tempo, fast breaking mentality trying to be effective, but the Shadow have done a really good job of making them work it. As this point, the longer it goes, almost the more important it feels, doesn't it, Osaka?
That's so true.
So again, the Shadow with it. This is Tiara Romero Pena.
So I think the Soul has gone to person matching defense, grinding it out. I think that's what they're trying to do now, is like trying to out hustle the Shadow players. The Shadow players using the space and their throwing skills to outmaneuver the matchups. But these are the matchups that the coaches talked about with us, where they carefully studied the team. And Marika with the...
Yes, a nice low catch by Marika Korpinen. Now getting to a high stall. The reset is there by Ono. Ono looking to the end zone, and that's brought in.
Who else but Amanda Murphy?
Amanda Murphy gets her first goal of the season for the Shadow.
I thought the Soul defense was quite good. It could have been an option to try to put the zone back, maybe there wasn't quite enough time. But
Both teams putting a lot of effort into this point. Atlanta had a couple chances to get that goal.
That looked like it was almost in her hand.
It's silly time over here.
But it ends with a shadow break. They increase their lead to 5. They are up 7-2 as Amanda Murphy, a goal, an assist, and a block tonight, loading up the stat sheet.
That was a little bit of a heartbreaking point for Atlanta Soul, having worked so hard and having had so many good layout catches and tough catches. But I think they can take solace in the fact that they are coming very, very close to scoring. They just need that one last throw to work.
Yeah, I mean, they have that go. It goes from a 5-goal lead to a 3-goal lead. If they just punched that in,
This
they have to
looks
put
like
that behind them now.
yeah, this looks like a little bit of a different look, not their typical.
As
O-line.
Ford sends it deep, a wide open player, that is Gustafson.
She must have cloaked herself or something. She was so open in the end zone.
Yeah, that's Anna Gustafson, a rookie from Canton, Georgia, and a beautiful shot by Liv Ford. This is the Liv Ford that we were hoping to see tonight.
Yes, beautiful. I wonder if it was a matchup error on Shadow's part. It looked like Gustafson just got away. And Liv Ford did not miss that on the field.
Yeah, beautiful throw and catch. Gustafson getting her first career PUL goal. And looks like she'll
Stay on the
stay
field.
on the field. And getting the high five there from head coach Maddie
Yep.
Fry.
Use that excitement to get another block. As the next line from Shadow comes on.
So
Ford is also staying on.
A lot of the same players from that last Soul line staying on the field. Coach Maddie Fry trusting her team to get this done, and it's a little bit rare because that was a hold, that was an O-line that went on, but now a lot of those players coming over and playing D, so we're seeing from both teams a little bit of a
Flex decision in terms of offense,
from
defense.
the traditional lines as they go with their zone look here. Shadow handling it a little better so far.
Mm-hmm. Moving it very quickly, making it hard.
To O. A hammer goes up, and 2 Shadow players in the area. It's brought down by Ellen Mueller. A nice throw by Jess Sourbeer.
It's hard to know who was the intended target there.
I'm sure they won't care too much. But yeah, we'll see a good shot here. We can see what Jess Sourbeer was looking at.
There we go, Shadow.
I think it was. It was to Ellen Muir. I think so.
Let's see if we can get to 10.
And Jordan was there just in case. Just in case.
Do this.
Love a good hammer.
2 points.
So both teams now with a hammer goal.
Mm-hmm.
Love to see that.
Love to see that. As I always say, it's the most underutilized throw in women's ultimate.
So Sourbeer gets her first goal contribution of the season, getting an assist there.
All smiles, all smiles. Love to see it.
And why wouldn't you be smiling on this beautiful night for Ultimate here in our nation's capital?
And your hammer's caught.
So 1:26 left on the clock. Possibility for this to be the last point if it doesn't end by the time the clock hits 0. Again, whoever has possession when it hits 0 will get to finish that possession out until the 4th quarter.
I'm sure it's on the minds of the Atlanta Soul players, as the importance of keeping possession.
I believe this might be our first out-of-bounds pull of the night. So a good field position here as Liv Ford is out there for at least her 3rd straight point.
And less than half a field to go.
2 players going deep immediately. It's 2-on-1 and unable to make the grab. Gentilette positioned well. And it was Popovich and Harn both there for the Soul. I wonder if that was a play drawn up for them to both go deep, or maybe there was a misconnection. Either way, Gentillette was there for the D.
It was hard to know if Gentillette was helping or if that was her matchup, but either way, it was a great job.
So now down to 30 seconds left. Shadow will look to hold this for the last possession of the half. As Peters strikes up line. And now Romero Pena. And a big chunking under there to Korpinen. And
A pick call?
yeah, pick call. The classic, do you have it, do I have it? That all of us Ultimate players know too well. But that was a fairly brief discussion, so love to see it. Romero
Nice.
Pena up to Gentillette. Wanted that flick, and now coming under is Amanda Murphy. And now Shadow have numbers. Amanda Murphy looking for it in the end zone and does not get it. Denied by Georgia Say. The clock hit 0, so that'll be the end of the half. And how big is that for the Soul? Denying the Shadow another goal just before half as we take a look at this.
Oh, I wish there were 5 more seconds for them to play offense here, but that was an amazing block. It looked like she read the play. She anticipated that it was going to go.
And it looks like the cape goes to Georgia Say. I don't think that's the first time she's gotten it this game.
No.
She has been the MVP of this first half for the Shadow as she waves to us and all the fans back home.
Second time with the cape today. It's looking good on her, I must say.
We will be joined hopefully with a coach interview here. We'll be getting a coach of the DC Shadow. And looks like we are ready. We're still waiting, but we will send it down to Ariel, our sideline reporter.
Shadow fans, please direct your attention to the field where players from
In
Jackson
just a moment.
High School will face off against DC Sky Mall. Put your hands together and welcome these two teams. Remember to support their seasons by buying some of the delicious baked goods they're selling up at the concourse.
So just waiting to send it down to Ariel. But again, what a first half there. Shadow had the chance to extend the lead even more, but they'll go into half with a 5-goal lead. And
receiving to start.
And receiving, yes. All right, so we are ready. We'll send it down to Ariel, who's with Coach Lane with the Shadow.
Hi, this is Ariel Vogel. I'm here with Lane Young, the assistant coach of the DC Shadow. Lane, how you feeling about the game?
I think we're coming out with a lot of intensity. I really like the spirit that we have. I think we can try some other strategies out in the second half and really see how things click.
How are you guys responding to the zones and the different defenses that Atlanta's putting out?
We've had a chance to practice against some of these things, not exactly the same format, but I think this is a really great chance for us to cut our teeth against some really striking opponents.
Hell yeah. And final thoughts going into the second half?
I think this is our opening game. This is one of the earlier times in the season where we get to come together and really see how our strategies are being implemented. And so I'm just excited to see what the second half brings for us.
Heck yeah. And anyone you want to shout out in the crowd?
I want to shout out all the fans who have been here for the multiple years that we've been at Carlini Stadium. We always have a great home crowd, and it's so great to see everyone on this beautiful night.
Heck yeah. Thank you so much, Lane. Back to the booth.
Thank you so much, Ariel. We will wrap up this first half. Shadow take it 8-3 here in this first half here at Carlini Field. We will have the second half for you coming right up. Welcome back to Carlini Field. We have Coach Evelina Pierce down with our sideline reporter Ariel. Ariel, take it away.
Hi, this is Ariel. I'm back with the assistant coach of the Atlanta Soul, Evelina Pierce. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. How are you, Ariel?
Doing okay. How are you guys feeling going into the second half?
We're feeling motivated. I mean, they gave us a lot to be motivated about in that first half, and so we want to come right back at them.
Love to hear it. Do you guys have any adjustments you're hoping to make or coming out spit firing?
Yeah, sure. I think that you're going to see a little bit of a difference in our system. I don't want to say too much.
Yeah, no spoilers.
And I think that we've probably got to take some chances, you know? We're down by a good margin, and so we have to maybe take some shots, do a few riskier things.
You guys got another game tomorrow against Raleigh. How are you guys planning on approaching this weekend on the road?
Well, we're taking it one game at a time, but our theme of this weekend is drive, literally and figuratively. So we're trying to pick up the disc quickly, move forward quickly on the field, and then we are also just trying to keep a positive attitude through this, and we know what we have to do. We don't have to talk about it that much because it is a little bit of a challenge. We've got to just be prepared and know what we're supposed to do at the schedule throughout the day. We've mapped out every hour, half hour throughout the day of where we should be, what we should be doing so that we're prepared.
Sweet. Well, I love your guys' warm-up jerseys that you were wearing, really rocking the fashion. Best of luck in the second half.
All right, thanks so much.
Thanks, guys. Back to the booth.
Thank you so much, Ariel. And we appreciate both coaching staffs providing all the viewers with some of that insight. And we'll let's start recapping that first half. One of the highlights for Shadow was number 4, Ellen Mueller.
Yes, Ellen with 1 assist, 1 goal, and 1 block. Stats that represent her being all over the field on offense, defense, cutting, throwing, playing, doing it all for the team right now. A very balanced stat sheet.
Yeah, she's really been everywhere for the Shadow. Each of these Shadow players playing only 1 of every 3 points on average. But we will, keep an eye on her as the second half carries on. And the Atlanta side, they've kept this game within striking distance.
Yes.
We thought that there was a chance for the Shadow to blow it open completely, but they really have, after that 4-0 start, they've really held it own. And, since that point, it's only 4-3 Shadow.
Yes, very gritty catches. I think the cutting has become a little bit more aggressive and paced as the coaches wanted to see it. You just can't get intimidated by the defense. You just have to keep cutting, and you get open. But you have to believe it and do it. And I think there'll be more Atlanta Soul players wearing that cape in the second half.
Here we see Zach Norbaum, one of the assistant coaches for DC Shadow.
Famous potter.
Yes, indeed, of Norbaum Ceramics. We mentioned former player of the DC Breeze playing right here on Carlini Field. Also a player with Raleigh, so, has experience playing with as well as coaching a lot of these players. So has that kind of dual experience, both playing and coaching players.
Very much so. Very much so.
See fans filing back into the stands, finding their seats after grabbing some yummy baked goods as we take a look at the updated conditions.
Looks like the wind has died down a tiny bit, but pretty much staying the same. Temperature also only 2 degrees lower. What a gorgeous night for Ultimate Frisbee.
It is absolutely beautiful.
All right, what are these Atlanta Souls coaches telling their players now, do you think, Theo?
They're probably just reiterating those matchups. You can see Coach Matty Fry there on the right, making sure that all the players are clear with who they're guarding. Maybe, I don't want to say it, but that looked like it could possibly be a zone, call. She was kind of pointing at players rather than, telling them, who they might guard. So we'll see right here as the second half is underway, and it is Jordan Harn racing down for the Shadow, and
And
there
yes,
it is, a bit of a poachy look, although downfield they look pretty
a different zone look.
tight. Yeah.
Not the 1-3, but
Another look we haven't seen and the Shadow hasn't seen. They're handling it well so far, as Smalling working with her club teammate Harris.
quickly move the disc.
Smalling. High motor goes all the way across the field as Flores makes that long throw to Smith. Flores, another standout for the Shadow, had 3 assists in that first half.
It's a very wide field to cover for a cup if there's not enough wind. So Atlanta Soul really running hard to try to cover the whole width of the field. And DC Shadow doing a good job going side to side.
Yeah, I really like this look by Atlanta. You know, they have 3 players guarding the handlers, but then downfield they're in a matchup. So very interesting look by Atlanta, and forcing the Shadow to make a lot of passes. As Smith now has the disc about 15 yards out. Smith goes up to Ritzman. Ritzman on the doorstep, flips it in, and that's a Shadow goal to open the second half. Claire France brings it in from Ritzman.
Great defensive bid by Charlotte Doran. Just a little bit short.
Another Atlanta defensive possession where they force the Shadow to make a lot of throws. We haven't seen the Shadow huck it very much, make those long passes. So that is most likely a success for Atlanta.
Yes.
We know these Shadow players, some of them very qualified and skilled throwers, as well as very fast and athletic players.
I feel like maybe this 3-line strategy for Shadow is working well because that was a clean hold on a zone point, which we hadn't seen in the first half.
So now Maddie Fry and Evelina Pierce coaching up this O-line for Atlanta. See Sarah Kingsley Hart, we haven't mentioned so far today, over on the right side. Another Soul veteran, 3rd year with Atlanta. Had 5 goals last year. And had an assist and 2 blocks in that first game. A lot of players on the Soul with blocks in that first game against Austin.
Trying hard. Trying hard for that try hard award.
Yeah. Ford dribbling with Hawkins.
Sends
and
it
now
up
Ford
again.
sends it deep. Good positioning there. And
Oh!
just out of the hands of Gustafson. Looked like it twirled around in her hands there, but unable to bring it in. And just like that, Atlanta goes with a zone defense after the turnover.
That looks like that was part of the plan. There's a quick turn, put the zone on.
Dobler almost got that D on the Cunningham throw. And now looks like Atlanta has transitioned into person defense.
I'm going to protect that middle. Protect that middle.
And a deep shot goes up, looking for 2 different Shadow players. And it'll be Cammie Groom that comes down with it. Makes up for her previous end zone drop and makes sure to reel that one in.
Beautiful long shot by Lizzie Lord.
Yeah, that's a pair of players that have connected quite a few times over their years playing together here in the DC area. As you can see, they're just in the hands of Gustafson, but unable to bring it down, and then Lori with that deep shot.
There was good defensive pressure by Jordan Sorensen on that huck from Liv Ford.
And you can see the communication there between the Shadow teammates. Both of them maybe had a play on that, but it's definitely easier to know that one of them is coming down with it and not trying to fight your own teammate for it. As Cammie Groom waves to all the fans back home.
Angle-wise, I think it was the correct answer for Cammie to catch that because it was an easier read for her coming across. A wealth of receivers.
Absolutely, Shadow putting their depth on display. That's what their coaches talked about.
All right, Atlanta Soul looking to get back on the board in the second half.
So Shadow, just like they started the first half, getting 2 straight points. We'll see if they make it 4 like they started the first half with. But Atlanta, a nice leading throw. Booth gains a lot of yards. Now goes over to Say. And a low catch by Lally. Lally's had some athletic catches today. Another one of those do-it-all players for Atlanta. Say, surveying her options, and just a little too far.
Commentator's curse again.
Lally unable to come down with that one. And just like that, looks like the Soul set up their zone defense.
Anna Peters trying to direct the field, saying, go deep, go deep.
It's possible that this shadow line hasn't played as much with the zone as some others, as Gentilette is looking for Korpinen. And
not quite enough air under it.
The Finland native couldn't come down with that one. One of several international players on both of these teams, as Lally just out of the reach of her extending hands. Marika Korpinen from Turku, Finland. And then on the Seoul side, we have mentioned Jimena Montaña, a native of Medellin, Colombia.
Yes.
Not with the Seoul this weekend, but also Danny Ortiz.
Yes, from Mexico.
A native of Mexico. So love to see more players from all across the world playing in the Premier Ultimate League. A big around as Gentilette looks for the inside. A lot of space. Murphy gets it. That looked like it had the potential to be a dangerous play, but Amanda Murphy keeps on going and now shoots to the end zone for Korpinen. Korpinen gets it out of the outstretched hands of Chloe Green, and another shadow break.
That might be her first PUL goal for Marika Korpinen. You know, she just started playing Ultimate. On the women's team that I coach, she was a complete, almost beginner, but a super athlete from the very start. And she's come such a long way in just a few short years. I want to say not even 3 years, but amazing athlete.
As that was an impressive catch by Amanda Murphy to get it before the Seoul defender could come in, and avoids the contact as well. But yes, Korpinen gets the goal.
On the stat board.
I talked to Korpinen briefly before the game and asked, what she was excited for playing in her first PUL game, and she had 2 words for me. They were compete and win. And I think that's pretty exemplified in that point there.
Yes.
Just head down, no frills, all business, and she has started this season off very well for the Shadow.
Good to see Greiner back on the field.
Yeah, so Greiner previously in that first half had to sub out on that huge layout that she was unable to bring in. As the Shadow are now up 11-3 as we approach the midway point of this third quarter. Shadow showing a zone look here, as they'll force the Soul to make a lot of throws. Booth working with Greiner and flipping the field there to Doran. Doran now up to Harn, and a diving Greiner again hits the deck. But just like that, Seoul approaching the red zone, not having too much trouble with this DC Shadow zone.
Oh.
Until now.
You did it again, Theo. You did it again.
Greiner was looking for Gustafson, I believe, but
Gustafson just turned
away right before Greiner released that scuba. But they get it right back here on an errant throw.
Those arounds on the sideline can be tricky. Atlanta Soul still hunting from that first score for the second half.
Ford goes up to Harn. Harn unable to read that floating disc. A very tough play trying to go behind her, as she knew that there was defenders approaching. As now Harris thought she was going to wind one up there to her rally teammate Pendleton. As France with it. Tyler Smith unguarded. Around to Smalling, and a big gainer up to Wallace. And a nice D there by Harn. Harn has been all over the field this point as Booth rips it immediately. Smalling chases it down and gets the D. What hustle from Sammy Smalling. Making a nice play, getting body position there and getting the D.
Tenacious defense.
As this huck does go up, a streaking Wallace, and that is right in her outstretched left arm. Now at the goal line, Wallace over to France, and France into the end zone for Julia Harris. And another shadow break. That's a 4-0 run to start the second half.
Lanasol still hunting for that elusive first point goal. It's very dangerous with this smart DC team to put it out into space when there might be roaming helpers already waiting or dropping to cover that to help.
And the Atlanta Soul call a timeout. And another thing we've seen from the Shadow so far today is not many clean breaks per se. You know, they've had a lot of D points. They've been getting turns. They've been giving the disc back to Atlanta. Atlanta's had some chances, but Shadow, again, if you give some of these players 2, 3, 4 chances, like they're going to make you pay.
That's exactly right. You cannot give them more than one chance. If they give you a gift, you can't give it back to them because they're not going to be that nice the second time or a third time around.
And we'll talk about what a contrast these conditions are from Shadow's practice conditions. We talked to some of the coaches, and you know, they've only had a few practices, but they've all pretty much been
rainy and windy.
Yes,
rainy and windy. So they were saying we're ready for rainy and windy. We're not sure about everything else.
They look plenty ready tonight, as you saw Coach Norbaum talking up Shadow line as the Soul used their first timeout of the second half. Beautiful shot at some cone diagrams. You know, we love the cone diagrams, using the water bottle.
I think she could have you should bias a little bit more. Second thing, real quick, when it's on the sideline, this alley is the mark, be really inside, because whoever's this off point will take you around. Okay. Any throw that's on the inside, that's our mark. So
when we go sideline, I'm no
inside.
Got it.
Okay. Great job, get it back.
This wing needs to pinch in a little closer. I need it just so.
Let's go, Shadow!
Hear the words of Coach David Maniloff.
All right, Atlanta Soul looking to score their first goal in the second half. Have another little mini comeback.
And even if they do fall in this game, it's important on this weekend where they're playing a game tomorrow, you know, to have that momentum. They want to end this game well on a high note, going into their day game tomorrow in Raleigh, where they'll drive down there tomorrow morning. And that'll be a big game as they're fighting for that bid in the South Division.
There it is.
Booth gets it quickly up to Gerald. And just like that, the Soul with a clean hold, and they get on the board here in the second half.
The Gerald fans in the stands are going crazy.
There you can see them right there.
She has a personal fan section right here.
Quick movement there from Green to Booth, and just steps into that lefty flick. And Gerald comes down with it.
That lefty flick can be so lethal. That was exactly the pace and flow I think that the Soul coaches are looking for. 2 goals for Megan Gerald.
Yeah, Gerald, one of the players we talked to before the game. Both her and Morgan Lally were the ones really praising the great leadership, as you see Fry and Pierce, coaches for the Soul, but they not only were they saying about the on the field adjustments, but they were just saying the trust in the organization and leadership as a whole, when it comes to off the field stuff, is very high for the Soul.
Yes.
And they certainly have a lot of momentum going forward in this season so far. we mentioned the Austin game, and all of them pretty much instantly had a smile grow on their face. It was so fun for them to come on top in that game.
Yes. They went down in the beginning, so that was a very nice comeback.
They were down 8-7 entering the fourth quarter and didn't surrender a goal. Won that game 11-8 back in week 1. As now the Seoul on defense here. Back to that.
Another slightly different look. Looks like a wall in the front. Griner roaming in the middle.
Yeah, I like to call that position the Viper. You know, someone that can be all over the field. It's a very tough position to play, but you know, Griner, one of the Defensive Player of the Year nominees. As a D is, you can see Annalise Peters giving the thumbs up to the Seoul defender, just being like, "Good job, you got me." And
she is a very spirited player.
And Griner will pick up the disc. As this is a break chance now for the Seoul. Lally fires the flick to Gustafson. Griner the reset. Nice jump cut there. Love to see Griner's activity. Such a special player last year with the Seoul. She now goes up line, and what a play by Gentilette. I don't know if Gentilette got a piece of that, but it was enough to make Griner unable to come down with that, and now Peters will pick it up and doesn't opt for the hug this time, just chooses to throw the reset. And Murphy.
Good
Seoul.
defensive switching by Seoul.
Slicing throw there, and now Romero Pena and Lisa Dang dribbling it up for the Shadow.
Looks like the Seoul defense has to, there's a pick call there in the middle.
Pick call. We'll see where it comes back to. Thankfully, we have the help of 4 observers for tonight. Our friends in the green shirts, keeping this game moving along.
That's right. They do a lot of running themselves.
They do.
On this big field.
It is not an easy job. Gentilette on the near sideline, shooting deep. Korpinen, will she bring it in again? No! Just out of the hands.
She's going to be mad at herself for that one.
It was approaching the back line there. Korpinen maybe had that thought of the where is the line sneak into her head. Lally with the step around backhand to Dobler. And a nice low inside throw, but just out of the reach of Katie Sanders, and another crazy play by Griner. She had no business even coming close to that, but she did. And now shooting to the end zone for Romero Pena, and that's a Shadow score. 3rd time's the charm for the DC Shadow. And Tiara Romero Pena, the Somerville, Massachusetts native, gets that goal. As you can see this, I want to see if we can see the Peters thumbs up here afterwards. Maybe just missed it there, but you know, love to see that respect for your opponents when sometimes they just get you. And then it was finished off by this Marge Walker to Romero Pena score.
Well-timed cut. A couple of chances for Atlanta there to get a break. So close. They're playing well though. They're I feel like they came back in that point. Hustling like they're trying hard. Going for the little troll doll.
And the pull is up for the Shadow. They are up 13-4. We have 1 minute and 20 seconds left in the third quarter. Griner on the field again for the Soul. Lally. The long arms of Booth just
That's right.
reach out and casually grab that. As this deep shot is up and unable to bring it in.
Just a little bit far.
It's one of those in-between looks, not a full-on huck, but that, you know,
Yes.
in-between area.
Yes. And not a full-on inside out, but a little bit like a loopy inside out almost.
Shadow so far taking advantage of this loose Soul defense. They're on their back heel right now. Harris flicked just over the left hand of Jordan Harn, as it looks like the Soul are finally settling into their defense. You can see Coach Maniloff screaming instructions at his Shadow players. Played against him back in the day at Florida warm-up. He's one of Cornell's standout players.
That's right.
As the Shadow just outside the end zone, but patiently taking their time. Flores pumps Smith. Smith comes back now. And now Flores makes the cut and jumps it into the end zone. A beautiful reset sequence there. And the Shadow increase their lead to 10 as that ends the third quarter.
Oof, that was a hard quarter for Atlanta Soul.
Shadow put up 6 goals in that quarter. Their most so far. As it was capped off by this throw. I mean, that's
a nice touch throw.
Yeah, especially in these conditions, which, you know, there is some wind, not a lot, but you saw how Tyler Smith
very deliberately threw that.
All right, Shadow fans. Atlanta, yes, the stars do rise from the darkness.
All right, and so that'll wrap up the third quarter. 12 minutes left here at Carlini Field. Shadow 14, Soul 4. We'll be right back.
Come on, Brad!
This live broadcast is brought to you by the Premier Ultimate League. The PUL is a 501c6 nonprofit. This league has been community funded since day one, and we are so grateful for the support. We ask that you consider donating to help us continue to transform and fulfill our mission. Head to premierultimateleague.com to donate today. This live broadcast of the Premier Ultimate League is brought to you by Breakmark Ultimate Apparel. Go to breakmark.com to place your custom team order or check out the PUL Athlete Collab shops. The Discraft Ultrastar is the official disc of the Premier Ultimate League. Discraft, the world leader in disc sports. Saturday night ultimate here in the nation's capital, DC, with a 10-point lead, 14-4 over the visiting Atlanta Soul. How would you grade this performance for the Shadow so far in their home opener?
I would say maybe 7.5 out of 10. There's definitely some room for improvement, knowing how fabulous these players are. What about for Soul? I would say they are first quarter a little bit better. First half a little bit better than the third quarter, but I would say they're about 6 out of 10. What do you think? They are playing the toughest team theoretically in the league. There's some gritty performances, some great long points, some break chances. If they can convert those break chances, it would be a completely different game.
Absolutely, yeah. You mentioned that they've had some chances. In a way, this game feels closer than it is. But that's what separates, the good teams from the great teams in this league is how, if you can up your conversion percentage just a little bit, that'll increase your chances greatly. And the Soul will start off on offense in the fourth quarter.
Yes. This pool play has been working for them, where the middle person comes across and gets open. Georgia Tse with the invisible cape.
She goes up the line for Quincy Booth, and Quincy Booth brings it in for the Soul hold, and that's, I think, their third clean hold of the game. They've had,
That's
a
awesome.
few points where they've really just shredded this Shadow defense, and this is a really difficult throw.
Love to see it. Quincy can be a threat with the disc or in the end zone. Really, if you think about it, who is going to cover her?
As you see Quincy Booth racking up the stats, an assist, 2 goals, and a block so far in this game.
It looks like Georgia Tse with the cape again.
You can see her in the background of that shot.
Quincy looked back a little bit like, don't I get the cape too? I scored.
I'm sure there's plenty of cape to go around. So that was a 35-second point for the Soul, as we are just starting this fourth quarter.
That's a good start to the fourth quarter for Atlanta Soul.
And Liv Ford on the pull, pins the Shadow over on the home sideline.
Set up their zone.
You can see they're allowing the swings to go off, but making sure that they lose yards. As it's Charlie Hawkins again in the middle of that front layer.
Can energize our bunny. She keeps going.
Already the Shadow have lost 20, 30 yards from where they started this point. Near side to Ono. And now all the way across, Gentilette with space. And Lisa Dang. Back to Marge Walker. Madison, Wisconsin native.
I like how they take the chances when the opportunity presents, but they go back and reset very conservatively when it doesn't present.
The first time Shadow saw this zone back in the first quarter, they worked it up most of the field and then just turned it over after 40, 50 throws, and so far they are patiently working it up again. Tiring out the defense, but tiring out themselves as well. As now Amanda Murphy working with Gentilette. Gentilette, 5 yards out. Works it back to Dang and into the end zone for Ono. And that's a Shadow score, a clean hold.
Clean hold with a zone. That was very good. I feel like they were a little bit more deliberate in the chances that they take. Gustafsson with almost a D there. It was good pressure.
And a few times we saw the Shadow break through that first layer of the zone. But unlike maybe previous situations, they didn't try to force that momentum too much. They maybe got a couple throws through that zone, reset, picked their spot again. I love that patience from the Shadow, and I'm sure the coaching staff does too.
And switching the field can be so effective because it just throws the defense on the wrong foot. So something to think about for the Atlanta team. Just a little bit of adjustment in the middle, perhaps, to make that one through the middle is what's killing them right now in the zone.
Smith again on the pole for DC Shadow.
Nice pull.
Atlanta going to try to find some momentum to take into tomorrow's game with Raleigh. That'll be a matchup of two teams already with a win on the year as Quincy Booth shoots this deep and a little too far for Lally. Lally been a great deep cutter, has had some space a few times, but has just
need to be a little flatter.
Yeah, as Atlanta goes into a zone here, Quincy Booth will anchor it in the back. But Raleigh got their first win of the season in an away game across the country over in Los Angeles. They beat the Astra, and Raleigh only had 15 players over there, but was able to squeak it out. And that's a big win for them, as that is a run through D by Jordan Harn. And Quincy Booth over to pick it up. Atlanta Soul 5 yards out. And Quincy Booth flips it in
just over
to Charlotte Doran for the goal.
Just over Tyler Smith.
Booth makes it look so easy, doesn't she?
So easy.
I believe that's now 6 goals for the Soul, and Quincy Booth has contributed to 4 of them, I believe. As you can see her eyeing exactly what she wanted as she went over to pick up that disc. And Pendleton really had no chance to get that deep. Another shot of it here.
It must be nice to be able to just throw over your defender. Oh, the cape has changed hands, it looks like. Jordan Harn with the cape now. It does look very glamorous on the sideline.
So Charlotte Doran with a goal and a block in the game tonight. Adding to her season total, had a goal and a block as well in the first game against the Austin Torch. And Greiner
Nice pull.
on the pull now. Atlanta down by 9. But again, played much better here in this fourth quarter.
Yes, very good energy.
Let's see the sideline.
I love
Very
that they
active
come
stuff.
back and play a good quarter after having a very difficult one.
Yeah, we know it's so easy to let those mistakes sometimes compound and spiral, but a really great job by this Atlanta coaching staff.
Yes, kudos to them.
As they have another chance here. Danny Ortiz picks it up and fires it. And that was Allison Murphy streaking deep.
A little bit too far. That was a case where we don't want to give that gift back.
And DC now with another chance to hold. As this goes deep, Cami Groom chased by Popovich, and Groom comes down with it just outside the end zone and flips it in to Julia Harris, or sorry, that's
Ellen Mueller.
Ellen Mueller for the goal. Mueller, our player of the game in that first half, and adds a goal there.
Padding the stats.
Popovich was chasing down Groom. Not an easy thing to do.
No, and she had 2 people to cover. Even worse. And 2 of the fastest people on that team, so Ellen Mueller with very good speed, especially going deep. She's a very effective deep player for Raleigh.
Cami Groom, a goal and an assist tonight. Starting off her 2025 campaign well, the reigning defensive player of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But I mentioned Popovich. I want to get this in because I was looking at it earlier. Popovich threw discus for the University of Louisville.
That's right.
In college.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes, and
very
she's
impressive.
And she's a personal trainer. No wonder she's in excellent shape. Speaking of personal trainers,
Here we go.
Marika also personal trainer. In unbelievably good shape. Oh, Georgia's open.
Say unable to handle that pass. As now DC with a break chance. Peters. That looks to her reset. Walker a little bit behind Ono. That doesn't matter. And that went high for Amanda Murphy. And just easily comes down with that. And now into the end zone. A beautiful switch of play there as Lisa Dang shoots it into the end zone for Korpinen.
Yes. Go rookie.
And that was just beautiful. You saw all the momentum was heading back to the right side, but a very smart play by Dang just to switch it back, and Korpinen was ready for it.
She's a savvy thrower. That was a little bit of a heartbreaker for Atlanta Soul there. They got the turn, but again failed to convert.
Pardon me, Sumi Onoe. So that's that incorrectly. As we have 6 minutes, 30 seconds left in the fourth quarter.
Yes. The fourth quarter ending is a little bit different from all the other quarters, as you know, in the PUL. Oh.
Looks like a bit of cramping there.
Is she laughing or crying? I can't tell. Hopefully laughing.
The humidity here in DC certainly a factor. As Liv Ford.
Also the big change in temperature.
Yes. Significantly warmer than it's been in the past few weeks. Certainly something that Atlanta players are familiar with.
Yes.
They had beautiful conditions for their first game. A little windy though against the Austin Torch. As now Liv Ford
looking for a long shot. Nice catch.
Dobler goes with the lady flick, and it is a little too shallow for Sarah Kingsley Hart to come down with.
All right, let's see if Atlanta Soul can hustle and get this back.
Again, showing this zone look after a turnover. I believe this DC shadow line, with anchored by Flores, Ritzman, and Smith, they seem to have seen the majority of the zone defense.
You're right. I think you're right. And there's another turn.
Yeah, it looks like Tyler Smith just had second thoughts about that throw and held on to it a little too long. As Pendleton sticks the right foot out and denies that around, but Liv Ford goes inside, right to the end zone, and puts it in.
Yes, a dirty hold. What a hold.
Emma Jaski putting it in for Therese Dobler.
Right, and that was Christina Tuna Marciano with the block there in the zone.
Yeah, Tuna, a shortened version of Christina. We learned just kind of the evolution of that nickname.
32, Dobler all over the field on that point, making cuts left and right, kind of showing the hustle, I think, that the coaches are asking their players to make.
Yeah, we'll see who earns that. The little troll and gets the
Try Hard Award. That's true, because the Try Hard Award is a little bit different from the Cape Award, which is a little bit more of a dramatic thing.
Flash. Sparkly, just like the Cape.
All right, Atlanta making up a couple points here. That's a good pull from Liv Ford.
And this will be Shadow looking it up towards half field.
Not a zone look.
This time, Seoul elects to play person defense. And the deep shot goes up. Liv Ford is chasing, and Sorensen unable to come down with it. Great pressure by Liv Ford.
Great defensive pressure there.
Now Ford, who wanted Griner going deep, but the flat and big mark of Sorensen denied that. And just like that, Atlanta gives it back over to the Shadow, Jackie Wong to pick up. Inside shot from Cunningham, and it results in a score.
Jordan this time secures the disc with a big smile.
Jess O to Jordan Sorensen.
I think this Jordan crowd needs to be a little bit louder.
Just off the hands.
There we go.
So that
There we
increases
go.
the Shadow lead.
Come on, Shadow.
18-7. The score.
Again, Atlanta getting the chances for break, but not quite managing to convert. A little bit of a story of the game so far. It looks like Jordan Sorensen having a fantastic opening rookie game.
Yeah, really excited to see what Jordan can do the rest of the season. Played against Jordan in indoor league a couple months ago, and it was.
I bet that wasn't fun.
It was not a fun time.
No. She was on my indoor league team at Friendship, and I think we never lost a game.
So back under 4 minutes here.
Quincy Booth.
And a quick deep shot. Gentilet is there, but two chasing players. Gentilet goes up first and secures the D. That's the second time that Gentilet has been
covering two
flanked
people
by two Seoul players and has won the battle. A lot of experience. Gentilet, I can't believe it's taken us this long to say, but the only player that's played in every Shadow game in the history.
That is a fun fact.
And this time shooting deep, but Lally comes down
nice
with the D.
defense. She read that very well.
Booth patiently works through her options. Guarded by Korpinen, has to make a big fake cut. Now hits Say. Say, a beautiful inside shot to Gerald. Lally.
Playing with good pace here. Oh, looks like there was a pick on the field. Griner with the pick motion.
The Korpinen.
The universal
Booth.
hand signal for pick.
Yes, love to see the hand signals out there. But this Korpinen Booth matchup is really something as straight to the end zone, out of the stoppage, and that's a Atlanta Soul goal, and the cape is being applied
to Doran, who was
Charlotte Doran.
She had the invisibility cape to get open in the end zone. Absolutely no one covering her.
So a good fourth quarter so far from the Soul.
Yes. I feel like they're definitely showing what they can do.
And it's just going to be even better when they add back Jimena Montaña.
Yep. And Soju Hikari, yes, indeed. And just a little bit more caution with the disc when they get the break opportunity, I think. That would take them far. Maybe they can carry that lesson into tomorrow's game against.
Yeah, going to be excited to watch that one. That'll be at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on the Premier Ultimate League YouTube channel.
They better be getting a good night's sleep tonight.
Yeah, they'll have to leave fairly, not super early, but fairly early in the morning to get down to Raleigh as Tyler Smith puts up this monster of a backhand and just out of the reach of Allie Wallace.
That was good defensive pressure from Lily Popovich. Oh, looks like there was a timeout called, perhaps?
Yep, so the Seoul will call timeout as they have a break chance with 1 minute and 34 seconds left. You know, they had one timeout left, might as well use this opportunity.
In this short game season, short number of games season, I think every learning opportunity you have to take advantage.
Absolutely. And we were talking to the Seoul coaches. They, I think, said they had 5 practice weekends total for the season, and I think they only have 1 left.
That's right.
Because they have
a lot of commuters.
Yes, a lot of commuters. You know, and so definitely using every single. I mean, you can see it right here. Maddie Fry giving her team instructions, using both of these all the time in this game as an opportunity to grow with this team.
Yes. And a lot of the lessons they learn in this game can be applied tomorrow and be very effective. All right, it looks like they're going into a horizontal, not vert stack.
Yeah, so fourth quarter, again, a reminder, it is not like the previous 3 quarters. The clock does matter. The throw has to be up by the time the clock hits 0 in order to count. As the Shadow come out in a junk set, messing up whatever play Coach Maddie Fry drew up, but it works out anyways as Booth goes to
calmly.
Second option. Now Booth has it again. Slicing throw through the entire Shadow defense as Lally. A quick movement here from the Seoul. Green over to Booth. Booth has a streaking Gerald, and it's a little too far. Smith is there for the overthrown D, but great movement from the Seoul, getting it all the way up.
Great movement.
Keeping the stall count low. As we're now down to 1 minute left here in the fourth quarter. You can see the Shadow playing their vert stack. Maddie Fry talked earlier about
so close.
They're wanting to kind of eliminate and make that Shadow vert stack hard. They've definitely succeeded in part in that goal. Booth marking France. France gets to a high stall, and Booth calls the stall. Observer was right there, so should be able to get a ruling on it. And quickly, the observer says no stall, I believe, so it will go over to Allie Wallace. Sometimes those discussions can take more time than they should, so we appreciate how quickly we move on, especially when there's a clock that's a factor here.
Yes, very true.
Ritzman.
There's been some pretty tenacious handler defense.
To Flores. Flores up the sideline, and Pendleton brings it in.
The rookies are scoring in the end zone.
The tight window was no problem for Kira Flores, who steps into that throw and delivers it. And a great job of Pendleton to secure that with 2 hands.
Another assist for Kira.
That's a very difficult catch because it's not, a full layout, and it's not right at your chest. It's
Maggie has
right in between.
great catches. I've seen her make amazing catches.
Maggie Pendleton with 2 goals and a block tonight in her PUL debut.
Amazing. I think this playing 3 lines strategy has worked very well for the team in terms of gelling with the people that they've been playing with.
Yeah, definitely can see that chemistry build throughout the game.
In some ways, getting better and better.
It's definitely in part due to the conditions calming down a little bit as the sun sets. Both teams playing better offense, although you still see a gust of wind blow those trees.
That
in the
was
background.
commentator's curse on yourself.
on the wind, on the weather. Okay, so 14 seconds left. Most likely the last possession here of the game.
They're going to get it to Ford and check it.
Ford definitely can get it the distance. They'll get it up to Booth. Booth has Lally streaking deep. Goes back to Ford. Ford
might as well throw it.
Has to get it up. Has the flick. Doesn't look like it's going to get to the end zone. And for sure measure, Cammie Groom gets the D. We'll see if the stat keepers give that to her, because I don't believe she had a D so far in this game. So.
I see. That could be an important stat.
Yes. We certainly care about stats, but that brings us to the end of the game. The Shadow take it 19-8. We will be joined by a player of the game to be named shortly in just a moment.
Like you said, I think the game felt closer than the score shows because some of the points were very contested. But definitely DC Shadow showing its dominance. The coaches told us before, I think it was Zach Norbum told us before, they wanted to show poise, professionalism, show what Shadow can do, trust our depth, systems coming together. I think a lot of those goals were attained through this first opening home game, and the fans are thrilled.
Yeah, and they definitely learned a lot too.
Yes.
Both Norbom and Maniloff talked about approaching the season with curiosity. So they definitely learned a lot from this game. Again, this is their only game of this week, so they'll have some time to reset, watch the film, think about it. On the other side, what do you think Seoul did well this game, and what do you think they'll bring into tomorrow from tonight?
I think the Seoul did very well keeping up their high energy, even when the going was getting tough. They did really well in the third quarter, which is saying a lot, I think, to come back from a really tough one. I love that the mental resilience in being able to come back and play really hard every point, even though the score was getting worse and worse.
Yeah. A lot of contested catches for the Shadow. There was not, they scored 19 goals. A lot of them were very contested, very tight plays. And the Seoul, again, put up 8 points. So we will have Ellen Mueller was our standout in the first half, and she will be our player of the game. And so we'll send it down to Ariel in just a second.
You see the fans lining up?
Yes, the patented high five line. And it looks like Ariel is ready. We will send it down to Ariel with Ellen Mueller. Take it away.
Tonight. How are you feeling?
I'm really excited. I am super excited to be at this first home game. I'm glad we get to play it here in DC.
Heck yeah. Is there anyone you want to shout out in the crowd?
All of my DC Rally teammates who came out and supported tonight. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you so much. Great play tonight. Go high five your friends. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
Thank you so much, Ariel and Ellen, for joining us in that post-game interview. Congrats to Ellen and the rest of the Shadow on getting their first win of the season. Closing thoughts, Asaka.
I feel like the rookies outperformed themselves. They did really well, integrated themselves into the team, and it's going to be an exciting season for DC Shadow.
Absolutely. So Shadow win the game 19-8 over the Atlanta Soul. Atlanta falls to 1-1 on the season. Shadow improves to 1-0. as we take a look at some of the highlights from this game. The hammer from Sour Beer out in the first half, and there you saw our player of the game, Ellen Mueller, come down with it. And,
We wish
that will
Atlanta
be-
Soul the best tomorrow in North
Yes,
Carolina.
Yes, the Soul will be heading over to Raleigh, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us.